Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Brothers in Christ podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Today we've got a special guest. Today we've got Holistic Manhood. How are you, brother?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Kevin. I'm doing really, really good. We just had a small conversation before. A little bit tired, a lot of work to do. Today's Sunday, most content creators who still work a regular job use those days on the weekend to build their business. So that's true for me too. Doing very well. I do have a lot of work, but I'm really hyped for today's interview.
Would you like to give us and the viewers a small description of what you do?
Sure. So, as I said, I'm still working a regular job. Nothing fancy, just working as a supplement in a supplement store as a sales clerk and helping people to find the right supplements and all that stuff. Besides that, I'm running two brands actually. One being Holistic Manhood, and the other one is actually a nutrition brand, which it just recently started, so it will take some time to bear the fruits. Holistic Manhood is an older brand, almost 2 years, but unfortunately I had to begin all over. So I had an account, big account on Instagram with 100k followers. But unfortunately, Instagram limited the reach so badly because obviously when you talk about certain topics like feminism, LGBTQ and that stuff, you get flagged and then you don't reach any people. And it was so bad that I decided to sell the account and start new. So I'm longer into that business, but I start with the very beginning. And what I do with Holistic Manhood is that I'm a men's coach and an author. I am more of a writer than an author because that's just what I find the most joy in it. I love writing, I enjoy it, so that's what I primarily do. And living in Vienna, capital city of Austria, engaged, and a newer follower of Christ.
Hmm. Bro, that's amazing, man. I didn't
Nice.
even know you had that other separate account, man. I only know you from your Holistic Manhood account.
Yeah, I don't speak a lot about it because, like that's this business and the other one is that business. So I'm not linking them together in any way.
Bro, the Instagram guidelines and rules nowadays are crazy, man. There's no such thing as free speech anymore. That's a whole business,
Instagram
man.
is
That's a
mad.
whole business that's just boom, got flagged, like shut down, like it's crazy. And most people nowadays, they're just sleep to it all. They're not awake. They just don't see it. Or I think they refuse to see it because, they obviously enjoy that agenda, but it's great to see people nowadays like yourself, other brothers in Christ, rising up, just taking a stand against a lot of this, you know, corruption in the world today. I think more men need to make a stance against it and just, not tolerate it anymore. I think a lot of the problems in today's world have come from just tolerance of this evil, of this corruption, and I think enough is enough. So yeah, man, it's great to see what you do. I really do like what you do, guys. I'm gonna link his Instagram down below if you guys want to check him out. But yeah, man, I guess we'll get straight into the topics. Like, what got you flagged in the first place? Because I know you talk a lot about like the problems with feminism, the problems with red pill, all this, this, and that. What were the types of things you were talking about? I'm assuming you were not being you know, very very helpful to their agenda.
Yeah, I wasn't a good boy in the government's eyes. But it's not the red pill. Attacking the red pill or being against the red pill is not the problem, but being against feminism and LGBTQ is a big problem. And I've had people reaching out to me who actually knew that this is a real thing, that they take down and censor people who talk about feminism and LGBTQ. I mean, by now most people know it. It's pretty obvious if you just look into our niche and then look in niches outside of our niche, like any other niche, you have far better growth, you have far better reach. But with the masculinity niche, it's just the growth is terrible. The red pill, it's good because essentially it's also part of their agenda because it's also destroying men. So it's helping them. Red pill content you'll often see very viral because it's very controversial to begin with. But it's also being pushed, just like feminism and LGBTQ. But if you look into our niche, like pretty much any content creator I know is getting flagged, is getting content removed regularly. is growing very, very slowly, if growing at all.
Yep. Yeah, I see that a lot. And even like a guest we had on before, David Hammond, like you were on his channel before, and like his content used to be pushed everywhere. He used to get a lot of views. As soon as he starts talking about Christ, biblical masculinity, like they just start pushing him out. It's, you know, it's a shame, but look, I believe we can rise up again. I think men are saying like enough is enough. And so yeah, like for the people watching, like just show your support to these creators. Any chance you get, follow them, like their stuff. Yeah, just keep pushing this out. Yeah, you know, in the Bible, there's countless stories of like just the underdog coming out on top just because of their belief in God and putting their faith into God. Yeah, right now we may seem like an underdog. We may seem like, you know, we're under attack from every angle. We may seem like we are losing control, but I believe we keep the faith. We hold the faith. We'll come back out on top one day. That's how I see it. But yeah, man, I think we should talk a little bit about feminism in today's episode and why that's an issue. Yeah. What is the issue with feminism for some people that are just completely in the void, that just don't understand? Like, why is this a problem?
Oh, we can go deep into this, you know.
Yeah.
Let's start with a basic thing, that feminism has never been about, let's put it this way, feminism has never been a pro-women movement, and it was never about female empowerment. It was always an anti-male movement. Like, if you go back to the very roots, first of all, you will find that it took men to push feminism in the first place. Industrial rich men, because they needed the workers. If you asked women back then, they didn't care. They were happy. We think, okay, women were oppressed, you know, they weren't allowed to vote, and they were dependent on their husband, da da da. It's all lies from the very beginning. If you track it back, it has always been an anti-male movement, and that's the problem. And it gets worse every year, and more apparent every year, that it's actually more anti-male and even anti-women than anything else. Because if you look to the other side, you know, it's about, okay, let's say female empowerment, but then you have women who want to be traditional, and how come that those feminists attack them as well? I thought it's about female empowerment. Like, if they want to do that, let them do that. But no, like, these women, those traditional women, they're the biggest enemies to feminism.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about this is that just the definition of female empowerment is so, like, is so wrong in the eyes of these people. Like, female empowerment would be pushing for women to be more feminine and to embrace the part of themselves, right? Yet they do the complete opposite. Whereas female empowerment in their eyes is, you know, dressing however you want, sleeping around, getting on birth control, you know, selling your pictures on OnlyFans, and that's empowerment. So basically, you're making yourself a sex object, and that's what's called empowerment, which I don't see the empowerment in, because basically, instead of saying like, oh, men just see us as objects, you see yourself as an object, and you even like sell that and promote that out to the world, which I don't know where the empowerment is, and I don't know where the righteousness is in that.
It has absolutely nothing to do with female empowerment. It's more about female degradation, if we're being honest. Like you said, selling those pictures to random men. Okay, you make a lot of money, you know, you're a strong, independent woman, but eventually you're rotting your soul. And I know, like, women in their 20s, 30s, they may be still enjoying it, but it will come the time in life where it switches, where they will have to bear the consequences of their actions. And then you have women saying with 40, 50, asking themselves, okay, what have I done with my life? I am single, I am childless, I am unhappy, I am on antidepressants, and probably in therapy because I can't bear my life anymore. And there are many women, and even more, coming out every single day that say that.
Yeah. It's almost like they want to turn us all back into savages, back into, you know, get us out of the the traditional family unit. It almost seems like it's an attack on the household, you know, that them traditional values. That's what it seems like. Every angle where they seem to promote these new ideologies, red pill, feminism, all these different things, it is always an attack on the family unit, I believe. You know, why do you think they want to attack the family unit so bad? Because like nowadays, it is very hard if you want to have them traditional roles and have a good life. Like as a man, you gotta be extra hard work, and you gotta be like extra successful to like provide for now your kids and your wife who's staying at home.
There are many reasons for it. The very first and the main reason for it is that they simply needed the workers. It began not just in the Industrial Revolution, but especially in there. You know, they simply needed the workers. So they needed women and men in the workforce, which first of all has led to extreme competition, which is leading to men now earning significantly less and not being able to fully provide with just a regular job because there's simply too many people in the workforce. But other than that, you know, getting the women and the men in the workforce, of course, means that you have to put the children somewhere. And if you have to put the children somewhere, it ensures that you can keep up the cycle forever. Because you indoctrinate the children, they grow up like this, and they continue the circle because they don't know it any way else. And if you attack the family unit, if you weaken the family, well, broken people breed broken people. So it's easier to control.
Yeah. So would you say this entire push, like to destroy the family unit and, attack all of that, that it was led by these people who initially pushed feminism, like the tycoons who needed the workers, who actually put money behind this and supported it because it sounded good on paper, but really like they just wanted to have slaves in their factories working so they make more money. So that's kind of like the origin of where all of these problems stem from.
Pretty much, yeah. From my understanding, what I know until now about feminism, and I'm still digging a lot deeper into it, it first started with women, like not even a majority of women, but more a minority of women wanting to push feminism. And they needed the support of rich men to push that agenda. And this is when the Industrial Revolution was at that time. So they got those rich men who, of course, were interested in getting all these women into the workforce to push feminism.
Yeah. It's crazy to see it, like, even playing out in today's world. It seems to be happening in the opposite direction as well for men with this red pill ideology. You know, I see feminism the exact same as I see red pill. Feminism for the women, red pill for the men. And, you know, like you said, like, red pill, it's destroying men's lives as much as feminism is destroying females' lives. You know? And, like, most people don't see it, man. Most people don't see it. Red pill is a big thing nowadays for a lot of men. Most of my old friends that I used to hang out with, like, they're all just big into the red pill. I used to be big into the red pill. I think you as well, you used to be big into the red pill as well, right?
Yeah, I used to make a lot more money in the red pill than I do now. That is one of the things that has led to me having major setbacks in my business. Because I started out, like, I was in the red pill for almost 3 years, and I built my entire business in the red pill and in the pickup artistry niche. I have products, I had services, all about those things. But then I switched, and you know, it's like the entire business crashed already. But shortly after, it was with Instagram just flagging my content and censoring my account, and then it was over.
Yeah, man. What piece of advice would you have for men that don't agree with any of this stuff, but they just look out and they just see it's so hard to, like, hold your morals, hold the faith in a world that's so corrupt? They want to have these traditional values. They want to have a wife that stays at home, but it just seems so hard nowadays to, like, provide for them. Like, what actionable steps could they take to still live this traditional lifestyle, but not go with these agendas, because like you said, man, like you had to close down businesses because you were getting flagged. Like, you know, like what did you do in this situation then?
Endure. You know, essentially, like if you're a young man, this is what I also teach. I'm still a young man myself. You know, I'm preparing myself for fatherhood, because I'm marrying someone sometime next year, and then we also want to have children, of course. But until you can get there, you have to put in so much work, and so much work really means uncomfortably much work, because like you said, men have to put in far more effort to be able to provide for the families. So if you're a young man in your 20s, or maybe even a little bit younger, you know, like get used to 80-hour work weeks. You work your regular job, and perhaps, you know, you could take on a second job to create a little bit of finances that you can use for your own business then. But once you have a little bit of money that you can use for your own business, you just quit one job, then you still work two jobs, right? The least I work is 60 hours per week. And when I say the least, like this is a chilled week for me. This is when I can relax. This is when I don't do a lot. But usually I wake up at 4 a.m. and I go to bed at around 10 p.m. And this is something men have to get used to. It's not even going to get easier. You know, like now, this is the time right now where you prepare yourself for fatherhood, because fatherhood is, I say it's the end goal, right? I mean, obviously you keep improving yourself and leading the family, but everything you do is to prepare yourself for fatherhood. So you have to work those two jobs if needed, build your own business. If it fails, you continue. Like I had 3 major setbacks. It doesn't matter, you just keep on going. And once you have a family, you know, essentially what you've worked now, the 80 hours, okay, you don't work that anymore, but you have to take care of a family. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. You have a wife that you have to lead. So you're still not going to have more, let's say, free time, you know, like time where you can just relax and do nothing. But all that is, if you're a young man, you have to prepare yourself like that. You have to learn how to develop that work ethic. You have to learn how to develop that discipline. You have to learn, what I always preach a lot, is to learn how to perform optimally in the worst conditions.
What would you say are some factors that help you perform optimally in the worst conditions?
My vision. You know, I
You know,
have
like
a rough history, and that is actually just what keeps me going. I had a very bad family. I come from a very bad family. I grew up in poverty. I had an abusive father, and everything I do, which is the key, which keeps me going, is that it's completely selfless. None of my intentions are selfish. All that I do is not because I want to have wealth, because I want to be rich, because I want to drive fancy cars. I care about none of that. I had this stage when I was younger. Oh, I want to be a multimillionaire. Nobody says that I ain't going to be one, but it's not my main focus. I just want to have a healthy family, be a good father.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be hard, man. It can be hard. What's because you used to be into the red pill and all that, like what was it that actually changed you in your line of thinking? What brought you to more of the biblical traditional role values and like the biblical masculinity? What got you away from the red pill sort of mindset, and to stand firm in what you believe in now, and to have that faith nowadays?
2 things. One, that I was always looking for this confirming evidence, which has led me to the red pill in the first place, because I was noticing, okay, in my current life back then, I was like, okay, this is not the way, right? I have to look for something. Then I found the red pill because I was looking for this confirming evidence. I was like, okay, this can't be the life that we're made for. And then you start looking, and then maybe most of us get into the red pill. But I always kept looking, and even when I was in the red pill, I was continuing to look for this confirming evidence. What do I mean by this? Let's say you're a guy, especially in this niche, you're confronted with Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, whatever podcast, street interviews, and you're feeding your own reality. You're watching those street interviews, street interview after street interview, Fresh and Fit podcast after Fresh and Fit podcast, and you're creating your own reality. You say, okay, that is the way. See, this is confirming evidence. See, this is confirming evidence again. This is again, but just take it and look for different evidence. Like a good example is that you say in the red pill, all women cheat. Okay, well then look for examples of women that don't cheat. You say, okay, in the red pill, divorce rates are extremely high. Okay, then look at people who have been married for over 50 years. So those exist, but people in the red pill are simply not willing to look at it. And the other thing that has led me away from the red pill was my own relationship, which again goes back to this confirming evidence, because I actually experienced it. Because when I was getting into the relationship, I was actually still very red pilled, which has led to massive conflicts and a lot of conflicts. And I simply noticed, because obviously you observe your own actions. If you do something and you see, okay, she's genuinely upset about it, well, maybe it's time to rethink certain things. The best example with, let's say, attention validation. Oh, she doesn't do something, just take away attention validation, everything is solved. Well, it doesn't work like that. And those are the things that you then experience in a relationship that get you thinking.
Yeah. One thing I notice about you, man, is you seem very like in control, right? Almost like stoic in a way. Like you don't seem like a very reactive person. And I think this is very good. Like in a book that I was reading called The Art of War, it kind of touched on this. Like going into war, you can't be very emotional. You can't be a reactive person. Like you got to be like level-headed. You got to be calm, you know. And I think this is very important as well. Like if you want to lead a family, if you want to lead a woman, yeah. What tips would you have for becoming more like emotionally unreactive, more, I don't want to say stoic, but almost like stoic in a way?
Exposure therapy. That is what has led me to gaining control over my emotions. Back in the days, I was very emotional. I was also into the new age things, where they basically worship emotions and, your emotions, it's energy and da-da-da, which is all true to some extent, right? So, but they're putting too much value on it. They're worshipping their emotions like gods. And that is why you have feminine men, who have experience crippling anxiety and all that stuff. And I had, first of all, I had major depressions because of that. But I also had the other spectrum of emotions, which was my father anger issues. My father had severe anger issues, and I had to deal with that as well. I had massive road rage. I was sitting in my car shouting, screaming, honking, tailgating, all that stupid stuff. So I had to learn how to control it. And how do you learn how to control it? By exposing yourself to it. So let's say, in my case, road rage, anger issues. Well, I exposed myself into those scenarios and learned to actively control it. When somebody cut you off and you would love to just scream and shout and lose your shit, you just tell yourself, okay, listen, relax, keep control over your emotions. The same is true if you're depressed or sad. You expose yourself to those situations and you learn to control them.
Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah.
That's facts, yeah. Even looking into like human psychology, like trauma, stuff like that, stuff that brings up all these emotions that lead people to not having control over it. I've been looking into it a lot lately, and like that exposure therapy is great. Like just facing it, facing the uncomfort, facing those inner traumas that you have, facing those deep-rooted, belief systems that you have to face that you've been avoiding your whole life. A lot of us walk around with some form of like trauma or some form of like just something going on underlying that we need to face And I think it's definitely holding us back from becoming the man that God intended us to be. I think you need to face the darkness sometimes, and just face it and feel it, and just almost like, not put value on it like you said, but just, just face it. A lot of people run away from it. A lot of people hide from it because they don't like the discomfort. They don't like the pain. Would you agree in saying, like, men, they need to go through some level of pain, some like high levels of stress, just that discomfort for a period of their time in order to evolve, in order to grow?
Absolutely. I say that trauma, when transformed, builds the man. If it's not transformed, it breaks the man. But if you learn how to face it, how to heal it, how to progress from it, and trauma is essentially extreme stress. It just molds you into the man you have to be. The same with any type of suffering. The more you suffer, the better. But you have to see a purpose behind your suffering.
That's
But you
facts,
have to
yeah.
face it. Like, if you have trauma, you have to face it. If you have any fears, you have to face it. Like, it sounds so simple and dumb that most people fail at it.
Yeah. I like what you said as well. This also can tie into it. What you said earlier on about your purpose, your vision, and how it's very selfless. Like, a lot of people are so internal today. It's like, oh, me, me, me. How can I help me, me, me? It's like, you all you need is the Bible, bro. Like, follow the follow the teachings of Jesus, right? He'll teach you to become selfless, right? The more I become selfless and just do things for others, you notice you just naturally just become better because you're not so internal, focused on the self. Like, what is wrong with me? This, and that. And I don't know how to explain it psychologically, but it almost helps. Did you ever notice that?
It does help. Like, most people don't know this, and it will probably shock you. I was, back in the days, like, the reason why I became so selfless was because I was severely suicidal. And if it was for myself, I would have taken my life because I had no reason to live. But now, I'm in a relationship. I want to have a family. I'm like, I can't do it even, right? I have my responsibilities. I have to take care. I can't be selfish because selfish would have been take my life. So I have to be selfless because I can't, just because I am suffering, inflict my suffering onto my people.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something else. We spoke about this before we started this episode, right? And you seem like someone who does this research into topics. So we spoke about how, like, in the middle of Europe, Christianity seems to not really be developed as much. Like, for example, like, I've spent a bit of time in Eastern Europe this summer. I, like, spoke to people who come from Eastern Europe, and they're still, like, very traditional, very centered around family. Most of them, like, Orthodox. Even if you go to, like, Italy, like, south of Europe, some parts of, like, Spain, Portugal, they're all, like, very traditional, like, and they still value, like, religion stuff. But since we're, like, from very similar countries, right? Germany, Austria, France as well, like, these countries that are, like, very well developed, good economy, whatever. It seems like we've just forgotten about God, about religion, whatever. Why do you think that is, especially in the middle of Europe?
It's not just in the middle of Europe, but it's especially in big cities in general. Vienna, Berlin, New York. Every big city in the West is very liberal. If you go to other places in Austria, for example, it's not as bad as in Vienna. Still liberal, but not as bad. But my thesis is that simply people are living lives that are too good. I always say that bearable suffering kills because it's a slow decay. People are living lives that are somewhat acceptable. They go to a job they hate, but they get enough money, they can lie on the couch and do nothing. And that's basically living a good life because your survival is not threatened. And what you see, when do people turn to religion? When do people turn to Christ? When they have the most suffering, when the suffering becomes unbearable, when they hit massive poverty, when they go through massive breakups, or any other very emotional life events that's completely shattering. So I do believe that people are simply living too good lives because we have the comfort of the modern life. We have everything we need easily available. And that is what puts them away from Christ. Because if you take now, for example, that good life, people go to work, just sit on the couch, watch TV, and now they're getting indoctrinated. So they're watching the TV, they're on Instagram all the time, they're getting indoctrinated because of that comfort. They're not looking somewhere else.
Yeah. And all this entertainment, it's like a big, huge distraction. It's like a big smoke screen taking people away from the truth that's right in front of their eyes. It's almost like, a couple hundred years ago or so, like the Roman circus, like when they started implementing, like giving like a lot of entertainment to the people, it was to blind them from the corruption of like the governments and all that. And it's like the exact same today. They have all this entertainment and it blinds people from the truth. And it's not until you're desperate, like you've got nothing left, you're in tremendous like suffering, going through trials, like that you realize like you actually need God in your life. It was the exact same situation with me. Like I grew up very like I had a very easy life, and then I went through a very hard period in my life then, and I realized like, look, I need God. And then you reach out to him, you realize, oh, he's actually been there this whole time. And that's the truth of it. That's the truth of it, But yeah, man, what was it that transitioned you to believing in Christ?
Like I said, primarily it was looking for this confirming evidence. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. That was just that got me into deeper research and the questioning, the red pill and all that stuff. Like what I have noticed, for you to have a good connection for Christ, you always hear, okay, you have to open your heart. You have to let him into your heart. But most people don't realize how hard it is. Like I still know I had a time in my phase of transitioning, where I still questioned God. I was like, okay, I need a sign. Please give me a sign, I want to know you exist. Well, but if you're so far away from God with your actions, with your thoughts, you will never feel him. Like if you keep sinning, if you keep fornicating, if you keep eating junk food, if you keep consuming, you're creating so much disconnect to God that you will always question him. But it's by acts. Let's put it that way. I always say self-belief follows actions, and it's the same with faith. It's the same with belief in Christ. Your faith becomes stronger by your actions. Like you have to feed it. It's like you have a relationship with him, and the same way you have to nurture a relationship with a friend, you have to nurture your relationship with Christ.
Yeah, man, I fully agree. Like, yeah, I really like what you said there, man. That's powerful.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, like belief is important, like, but if you're still living in that sin, it's gonna be very hard. I know a lot of people, they always say like, why does he feels like he's just not looking at me no more. He feels like God is not here anymore. He's ignoring me. It's like, look at your lifestyle. How are you living? Are you putting God first? Most likely no. And like, I do feel like God will test you, like in a way, like he will never tempt you, but he will test you. You will go through hard times. And why? It's to get you closer to him. It's to build that faith. Yeah, when a man has that unwavering faith, he's just more powerful. Like, you pass through life just with ease when you've got that faith, knowing God is by your side.
So what is kind of like your plan to bring more of these young men who have lost the path, who believe in the red pill, who believe in all the bullshit, or like maybe they're the complete opposite, right? They're way too feminine, they believe all of this, like, oh, like embrace your feelings and all this wishy-washy kind of stuff. What's kind of like your mission when it comes to that? Like, how do you want to help these men break out of that illusion and come to the masculinity that you have found is the most practical one, and like that actually has the most benefit to society?
I do believe in walking the talk because you have a lot of influencer or accounts in this niche, that are anonymous. You don't really know who's behind it. And I want to show people by the way I live. I try to show as much as reasonable from my personal life, from my relationship, to show people, okay, look, there is a different way. There is a guy who is a little bit older than you, who's, despite his suffering, despite his past, living a great life, who had a complete 180, who was feminine, who was addicted to drugs, addicted to porn, who is now a righteous man in the direction of fatherhood. Also who has been in the red pill. So I'm showing, by putting out my content and showing as much as reasonable, again, that there is a different way. And there are a few tricks, of course, and a few things you have to simply learn. Like I love what, maybe you know him, what is his name? Will, but I'm not sure. Will Spencer from Renaissance of Men. If you don't know him, maybe get him on your podcast. He's a great man. And he said, have to know when you're fire and when you're light. So when you're like bursting in there, not with righteous anger, but when you're confronting people, and when you're more empathic, fire and light. And you have to know when to use what. Because for most guys, what I have experienced, I was very confrontational with the red pill. I still sometimes am. It's like a little hook that I throw in sometimes. But most people actually need empathy and they need that understanding. Like, because if you're just going to confront them, they will get defensive and they won't be receptive. So you have to try with your content to be a little bit like good cop, bad cop almost. So sometimes be very confrontational, but also show them, okay, you're empathic, you understand them, you're with them.
Yeah. How does one become more...
I feel especially with the...
Oh, go on, Julian. You can go.
I feel like especially with the red pill, like empathy is such a big thing because the guys in there, they're just misguided, and like most of them are actually incels, so they blame women because they just simply can't get any women, and it's not really from a place of like, I know it's from a place of desperation, really. And so I feel like, when you just tell them like that all their beliefs are wrong, it wouldn't really help them. But I say like have empathy and see, okay, like they're just actually suffering because they've never been taught these things, but there is another way. So I feel like that's very important when it comes to the red pill and, communities where men, they're just really desperate, they're really lonely, they're actually in a lot of pain, and that's why that's the only thing that's they kind of transmuted into, which is not much better, right? It's hatred, it's resentment, whatever, but you have to kind of like lead them into the right direction, right? Instead of like telling them that they're just completely wrong and they're idiots, whatever.
Absolutely. When like I work a lot with people, and I also had a leading position already in my last job, and you learn a lot how to speak with people and how people react to certain things, especially if you have a lot of emotional intelligence, and especially if you can read people the right way. And how you say certain things will immediately change the response. Like if somebody does a mistake and you point with the finger at him, you say, hey, that was wrong, don't do that. He won't be receptive for anything that comes after that because he's in a defensive state. If you say, hey, you're doing good work, I appreciate your effort, but there's a little thing you can improve, it completely changes everything. And this is something you have to learn, and it's something I had to learn because I have a very big, what is the right word? Is it temperament in English? Not sure if it's the right translation. Does it make sense if I say a lot of temperament?
In what context?
Probably not the way you're looking at me. Just let me quickly translate it.
My guy's a fast typer.
Feisty. Does it make sense?
Feisty. Feisty.
Or feisty.
Yeah. Is it like quick, almost in a way like quick to anger?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
it's like very fast,
Mm,
and it's like
yeah.
you have to learn how to control it, not to lash out so quickly, you know? Like, even if it's with good intentions, you want to help him, but you can't, like, just grab him like that and say, listen, you know? Like, he will be in a shock and he will be defensive. You have to learn how to do it in the right way. And I do believe that many men do have this attitude. We're men, we're high in testosterone, we're aggressive, we have a lot of energy. And we have to learn how to control that, how not to be so quick and grab him.
Yeah. So you're saying your frame as a man matters.
Absolutely.
How does a man become more in control of his frame? You know? I guess you could almost speak from your own experience, like overcoming that, like, feistiness, that temperament.
There's a lot that goes into it. First of all, self-awareness, very big one. Of course, if you're not aware, how are you gonna change it? And it's just trial and error from then on. If you're self-aware, and if you can, like, I just saw how you looked at me basically, and I knew you didn't know what I was meaning, right? Things like that. If you see, like, if you're in a conversation and you're explaining something to someone and he looks like you, like that, you know that he doesn't understand you, even if he says yes. And the same way, you learn how to control your frame. You're reacting, not reacting. Let's say you're responding in a certain way. Let's say in your marriage, your wife didn't do something that was good, and you have to correct her behavior. And it's how you do it. Like, you do it in one way, she reacts negative. Then you think, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And maybe even have a conversation with her about that as well. Or if you work with other people like I did, you can go to them and say, listen, I see that my intentions were right, but I didn't convey it in the right way. What would have helped to bring across my message? And it's just trial and error from then on. You do something, and then you see how people respond to it. If they respond negatively to it, well, maybe it's about them, but maybe it's also about you.
Yeah. Self-awareness. That's very key, man. Yeah. That's facts. Let's say when a guy is, he's in the midst of it, maybe he feels like a lot of anger, maybe he doesn't have too much self-control, and he feels like the temperament rising, the anger rising. Would you have any advice for this guy, what to do in order to regain control of the situation?
In this situation, if you feel the anger rising and you notice how it becomes uncontrollable, you have to withdraw. There's no other way. Because why? Because if you're feeling that anger and if you allow it to unfold within you, your nervous system is getting into fight, flight, or freeze response. And when it is that, it's over. Like, you're emotional, you're gonna get emotional if your nervous system is activated like that. So you have to withdraw yourself and calm down. But you shouldn't even let it come to this. Sometimes it happens, and when it happens, you withdraw yourself. This is what I do as well. If I have a conflict, I still have those tendencies. I still feel sometimes the anger, rising up. But I can control it. And if I feel it, if I notice, okay, look, this argument, I'm getting angry, or maybe not just angry, but maybe also impatient. I'll withdraw myself, go for a walk, come back in 20 minutes,
Yeah.
all good.
That's a good one.
And it's not even like, people don't take it badly. If you say to your wife, look, I need a quick break from the conflict, and conflicts will happen in your marriage. She isn't going to be mad at you for taking a break, but you have to convey it the right way. Simply just say, okay, listen, I just need a quick break to realign myself. We'll talk again in 20 minutes. Is that okay for you? That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can definitely make poor decisions, like, in the heat of the moment, when emotions are high. Having that emotional unreactivity, I think it will take you very far in life. I think it's very important that men, you know, they learn this emotional control. You know, not only in your own life, you'll help others around you. You'll just have that ripple effect. Like, having emotional control as a man, I think, will lead to success as well. In If you want to start a business, you know, life is always going to be filled with ups and downs. You got to learn how to walk through the storm, how to not let it affect you, and just keep pushing forward. Because ultimately, you know, what's the most important? Your feelings or facts? You know, feelings or truth? Your feelings are your purpose. We all have different emotions, feelings that we're gonna feel each day, you know. And I think, like what Manuel was saying earlier, you just gotta put that purpose first. You know, when you have that vision, it helps with a lot of it. And yeah,
No, it's just
Julian, have
I'm
you got anything
quiet
on your
because
mind,
my
man?
wife
I
are
don't want
just
to
keeps
keep
cutting
talking
out,
over
so
you.
I can't properly hear you guys. But I think it should be fine right now.
Okay,
No, yeah, they're just
sweet man. Have you got anything you want to say, bro? Okay, Julian's Wi-Fi is messing up on us again. I'll take over. Manuel, I've got another question for you, man.
Sure.
Why is it so important that families need a strong, you know, a strong man that's going to lead them?
Because the father holds the family together. The father, like if the father crumbles, the entire family gets out of control. I explain it that way. A man is stoic. He's emotional, unreactive. Because he's a leader. He needs that unreactivity for his leadership. He has to make the right decisions. But also, when we look into the marriage, of course, it's a stereotype. It's generalized. But you say men are rational, women are emotional. And if you're in a marriage, if you're in a family, you will have a wife and the children. Those two are very emotional, and you will notice it. Your wife will be upset someday for no reason. Maybe she will get angry, maybe she will get impatient. And if you react as a man, it's like you're fueling the fire. But if you show her that you're calm, you're relaxed, she gets that control. Like you're soothing her anxiety, soothing her emotional chaos. So you're the control in the family, you're the stability, the source of strength. That's why I say the father holds together the family. His children are emotional because they're children, so they have to have an anchor, they have to have a source of strength. And it's the same with the women. And this is not a negative trait. Many people always lose their shit when they hear this. But what they don't understand is that this is done on purpose. Because she needs to be emotional for motherhood. She needs to be much more empathic than men need to be. She needs to react to the child's needs. She needs to nurture it. I would trust a woman to do a better job at mothering, obviously, than a man. You know, it just makes sense for most of it. Like, if you have a children and you have to babysit, who would you rather take, a man or a woman?
Yeah.
And it's because women are just made for it. The same way men are just made for leadership.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like...
So
All right, Julian, go on, man. I'll let you speak, bro.
now I'm back. Yeah, it just keeps cutting out. Hopefully fine. You said earlier that you're preparing yourself for fatherhood. And you're putting in a lot of work, right? So what are some of the things you're doing? Like what's...
Oh, he's gone. Can you hear
Yeah,
him?
I just cut off in the banana. Julian, can you please repeat that? Your Wi-Fi connection is cutting off again.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nah, I think it was what actionable steps can a man take in order to prepare himself for fatherhood. Is that correct, Julian?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right.
So first of all,
It just every
please go on.
so every couple seconds it just stops. Like when I want to ask a question, like in the middle, it just cuts off. It's pretty annoying.
It's always like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can a man prepare himself for fatherhood? First of all, let's take our responsibilities. Provisioning, protection, leadership. All your actions right now should be in order to fulfill those duties. Protection, provisioning, leadership. Okay, what do I have to do for provisioning? I have to earn enough money to be able to provide. And that alone will take several years. This is, I'm almost at the edge of being able to fully provide. That is why I created the second company, just to push a little bit more, work more. It's okay, I can endure it, but to really get enough money to make sure that I can provide. So I can ensure, pretty sure she can stay at home, no worries, take care of the children, help me with my business, and we're all good. This is honestly the biggest step for most, because it needs the most effort. But there are also other responsibilities. Of course, protection. Okay, how can you protect a wife? It's not just physical protection, which is essential. So training, being physically fit, learning how to defend yourself, learning how to defend your loved ones. But it's also about emotional protection. Again, like I said, if she is being emotional, it's wrong to be reactive. That is emotional protection. It's like almost you're building a shelter for her to be safe in. That is emotional protection. And then it comes to leadership. Leadership is also very tough. I do believe protection is not even as hard as provisioning and leadership, because for leadership you have to learn a lot. You have to learn a lot about yourself. You have to learn about your flaws. You have to learn about your past, your traumas, how you react to certain things. And you have to progress towards being an ideal man. You have to, if you're emotionally reactive, away with it. If you can't endure a lot of pressure, it's time for you to learn it. If you can't thrive on little sleep, and if you're fetishizing performance optimization, like I used to do as a bodybuilder, oh, I need 8 hours of sleep. No, you don't. So that is something you have to learn. And you have to learn to, whatever happens to you, internally or externally, that you don't drag your family into it. Because again, you're the shelter for her. Or for them.
I like that answer, man. Yeah. That's good, man. Learn to be hardworking. Yeah. The Bible talks about it do not be an idle man. Laziness, it will lead to ruin, it will lead to destruction. A hardworking man will, fruits will grow from it, That's the truth of it. And especially in today's day and age where there's just, distractions, entertainment, it's so easy to fall into that laziness, however way you want to look at it, it's just so easy. And, the truth is the strong will survive. The strong will survive. So for those men out there watching this episode, don't give up. It may seem like it's not working. You may feel like giving up. You may feel like things are going hard. You don't see any results. But think about it, the last thing to grow on a fruit tree is the fruit. Yeah, everything else needs to grow alongside with it. You're just building the foundations, brother. And then, after some time, fruits will grow. Fruits will come from it. But yeah.
The diligent hand shall bear rule.
Boom. There's the verse right there.
Exactly. Yeah, I was constructing it in my head because, obviously my mother tongue is German. And I was like, okay, how is it? It's lazy hand leads to poverty, but diligent hands make wealth or something like that in English.
Yeah.
And, it's that one verse is in my head. Saved forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. What passage is exactly? I think it's Proverbs, right?
Oh, I believe. Let me just quickly look. Yes, Proverbs 10:4.
Proverbs is
Exactly.
good. Proverbs is good. I'm reading a proverb a day for the month. 31 days, we got 31 proverbs.
It's pretty
Yeah,
fire.
yeah. But Julian, man, have you got any more questions you want to ask Manuel?
I actually think I'm good. Like I was really interested in like the fatherhood stuff, that kind of stuff. So I think he made a very good explanation for all of that. So yeah, from my side, thank you so much, Manuel, for providing very profound answers.
Been my pleasure.
Thank you very much, man, for coming on. I think we'll wrap this episode up here. We got a lot of value in today's episode. Thank you, Manuel, for your time, man. Very, very good answers. What surprised me, man, was like you're very quick to answer, bro. It's almost like you had the answer in your head already before. Like, wow, this is pretty cool, man. But yeah, man, it was a pleasure having you on.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Everybody, don't forget to go down and check him out. We're gonna link his Instagram down below if you want to go over, check him out and support him. Make sure, guys, just support all these guys. Yeah, you know the algorithm, all this stuff. It ain't for us. You know, we know this. It's not gonna push us out. We need your guys' support. You know, follow these guys. Just show support in any way that you can. That would be very helpful. All right, in the name of Jesus. Yeah, let's push this movement forward. Right. Let's get this
Amen.
rise going. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you all next week. God bless.